What's up, guys? Welcome back. So today I want to talk a little bit more extensively about my experience with Googling my anxiety symptoms using Dr. Google. A lot of you are still partaking in this destructive anxiety habit. Man, I don't honestly know how bad my anxiety would have gotten if I just didn't turn to Google when I had my first panic attack. And I'm sure many of you have asked yourself the same question. Like, I wonder how bad my anxiety would have been, or I wonder if I'd even be in this mess if I would have never went to Google in the first place. Personally, I think my anxiety journey would have been a lot easier. See, I Googled the first time I had a panic attack, and of course it told me that I was having a heart attack. So I then struggled with heart anxiety for 2.5 years. That one Google session held me back for years. Because in that moment when I was panicking and I went to Google, I was gonna believe anything bad and negative that I saw over anything positive, right? And positive in that situation is finding out that anxiety could be causing it, right? So I was gonna believe the worst things that I saw, and unfortunately, the reason this is so destructive is because the things at the top are gonna be the worst things that can happen if you're experiencing the symptoms that you're experiencing. So a lot of you Googled the first time you had a panic attack like me, or an anxiety attack, or you just had symptoms of anxiety. You had anxiety off and on, but now you're having symptoms. You're like, no, I've had anxiety before, but this is different, right? So there's those of you that fit into that category. And then there's some of you that had something actual kind of real happen, like maybe you had a stomach ache or pain, or maybe you had a headache that was not caused by anxiety, but then you jumped on Google and then you developed the anxiety after, right? That happens a lot as well. So overall, Google is a nightmare. So I had my first panic attack, had experiences with anxiety on and off throughout my life. It had just been building and building and building. So I had a rough weekend where I was drinking and partying, came back home, finally wanted to get some sleep. Well, I was dehydrated. And I think I started to get anxious about that. I felt kind of off, felt kind of weird. Then I started to notice my heart beating, and then it started to palpitate, right? Just really thumping, and it made me feel odd and weird because I was like, it doesn't usually feel like that when my heart's beating. And usually I can't even feel my heart beating unless I get scared or something's going on, or if I exercise, right? You can feel your heart thumping. So I immediately kind of jolted up and I was like, holy crap, like what's going on? And then bam, the floodgates open. And those of you that deal with anxiety or panic attacks, you know what that feels like, right? The adrenaline push. And then I had a ton of symptoms that came after, right? And I probably sat there in the symptoms and panic and worried, debated calling an ambulance, debated going and waking up my dad. I was like, maybe I'm tripping, maybe I'm overreacting, but I was kind of just frozen in fear. Like I didn't even know what to do. So I'm having pain, I'm having chest pain, shortness of breath, numbness, tingling, racing thoughts, depersonalization, derealization. I felt like I was going crazy and dying at the same time. So after a couple minutes of that, I managed to crawl over there to my laptop and open it up, and I'm typing this stuff in like many of you have done. And what do you think's gonna pop up if I type in chest pains? What's gonna pop up if I type in fast heart rate, shortness of breath, numbness, and tingling? Okay, it's gonna tell me that I'm having a heart attack. And even though I was 20 years old, the frame of mind that I was in, the fear that I was experiencing, I was gonna believe that I was gonna be a 20-year-old that was having a heart attack, right? Because like I said, I had anxiety, I know what it feels like, but this was a whole different realm. This is a whole different can of worms, basically, that I had never experienced before. So I was thinking there has to be something wrong with me physically. So you jump on Google, the worst things are gonna be at the top, right? Because those are the most dangerous things. Those are the things that sell. So it could be cancer that you're seeing up there. It could be MS, ALS. It could be Parkinson's, right? It could be heart problems, heart failure, heart attacks. It could be stroke. It could be seizures. You name it, it can be up there. Blood clots is another one people worry about a lot. So cancer, heart attacks, all that. I'm telling you, any symptom of anxiety can be a symptom of that, right? Which makes it tricky. That's why we need to go to a professional. I think actually, if I would have just called an ambulance instead of jumped on Google and them tell me that I was fine and okay, I think that would have done me a lot more good than getting on Google. Because in that moment, especially when it's your first few times Googling, that's when the most damage I think is made. You still are keeping yourself in a bad place and digging yourself in a deeper hole the more you keep doing it. But those first few sessions are everything. And that's what we're trying to recover from and repair. Because in that moment, I was wired to negativity. Obviously, I was having symptoms of anxiety, so my anxiety had gotten that bad. I was going to believe anything that I saw. It didn't matter that I was 20 years old. It didn't matter that I was thin, that I didn't really have too many risk factors for a heart problem. And the few that I smoked cigarettes at the time, but I'd only been doing that for like a year, right? So I didn't meet really any of the criteria to have one. But because I was in a negative state of thinking, I was going to believe whatever I saw at the top. So one of the reasons you got to stop Googling is that the worst stuff's going to be up there. And if you have anxiety, bad anxiety, you're still wired to negativity and fear. Your subconscious is going to believe anything negative it sees or anything that you say to your subconscious that's negative, just like that, all right? So remember that. It believes the negativity really quickly. Anything positive, and in this case, positive being like it's just anxiety or you're healthy, it questions that, right? It doesn't really believe it that fast. It takes you convincing it over and over and over again. That's why you have to do it. You got to get reassurance from a doctor. Relying on Google is it's a never-ending thing. So I did that the first night. Eventually my panic attack went away, but then my symptoms continued. And then I started Googling and just going down this crazy, dark, rabbit hole nightmare of thinking, well, maybe if it's not a heart attack, maybe I'm having mini heart attacks and then silent heart attacks. And then you start running into stories with whatever disease you're fearing. I was misdiagnosed. They told me that there was nothing wrong with me. And then turns out I had this or that. So you hear all those horror stories where there's always going to be a story like that with whatever disease that you fear. There's always going to be somebody that got misdiagnosed. If you have anxiety, you're just going to assume that you're that person though, and that's why it's destructive. So I'm looking up stuff like that. A lot of you are joining Facebook groups for diseases that you haven't even been diagnosed with to see if you meet any of that criteria. Where again, you're going to find people that are going to say that you could be being misdiagnosed. You're going to go to Reddit, which is another very toxic place to try to get reassurance. You're going to go there. And if you're like me, I was actually scared. I wanted to know through Google more than I wanted to go to the doctor. I felt like I couldn't bear to find out that there was something wrong with my heart at 20 years old. So I put it off. So instead of going to get some good reassurance fast, I kept Googling. And a lot of you have experienced this. I think I would have been better off if, even after that first Googling session, I went and got checked out, got my testing done, then tell me, look, you're fine, you're healthy, I promise, move on from this. I think I would have been able to move on a little bit better. But I Googled and Googled and Googled. And the funny thing that's going on when we're Googling, we're looking for some good reassurance that things are okay. But oftentimes I would see that stuff. You scroll down far enough, you're gonna see that anxiety can cause it, but I still didn't believe it. I believed all the crap at the top. So it's like I was trying to make myself feel better, but it didn't even matter if I saw something that was good or a positive article. There may be a few of you out there that got some good reassurance from Googling and took something from it and moved on. But for most of us, it's like even when we see the stuff that tells us that it's anxiety, we don't stop there. We keep going. I need to really make sure. And then the more you look, the more you're going to find some bad stuff, things that are discouraging, a lot of it. So I started to do this a lot. And with the heart anxiety, man, I just kept looking up crazy stuff, long in search stuff, 2 sentences in the search bar so I could find out that one answer that I needed. So I did that a lot. I would sometimes Google for hours a day. I'd wake up in the morning and I would get on my laptop. I didn't have a smartphone at the time, and I'd start in on it. On my break at work, I would do it. When I got home at night, this is whenever I really would get deep into that. So I started to do it. And once I got past my heart anxiety, I thought I was fine, right? I finally came to acceptance. I started to work out. I was like, okay, my heart's healthy. There's nothing wrong with me. I thought I was good at that point, right? I thought I was fine. I was like, man, I beat this. But then I had a stomach ache a couple months later. And you think I'd learned from my past mistakes. What did I do? I jumped on Google, and one of my things was I'm past my anxiety. I shouldn't have anything wrong with me, or shouldn't have any. This means it's got to be something real. So I jump on Google, and guess what? I Google my stomach pain, the cramping, the area that it's in, and then it tells me that I have some form of digestive cancer. And it was mainly colon cancer that I was fearing with that. So guess what I do? I start Googling every day again. Don't be like me. because then that turned into a 3-month ordeal. And then finally I made an appointment to go get checked out to see if there was anything wrong. And just me making the appointment made the pain go away, took the focus off of it, right? So yeah, so I dealt with that, and then I got past it, and I was like, oh my God, thank you. Oh man, this anxiety thing's crazy. I got to get a hold of this, man. I'm becoming so symptom focused, and I'm assuming that I have these horrible diseases. So you'd think I would have learned from that experience, right? Nope. Because then I had throat pain. Googled that. What do you think's going to pop up with that? Throat cancer, right? And then it moved on to headaches and stuff like that, and ringing in my ears. So I'm thinking like brain tumor, because when you type that in, that's gonna be one of the first things that pop up, brain tumor. And then you start to think, and it gets even worse, because I had a grandfather and a great-grandfather die of brain cancer. So I'm thinking, I'm trying to piece all this together. I'm like, oh my God, it like skipped my dad, and now it's gonna hit me in my 20s. I'm gonna be that. And that made everything worse. So you start putting things together, you start, you're in a rational state of thinking, and it doesn't help the situation. So you type in, the headaches, the ringing ears, brain tumor, brain cancer is going to pop up there at the top, most likely. And then once I got past that, the last long battle of health anxiety that I had was thinking that I had lymphoma. So I'm looking up everything lymphoma related, misdiagnosis. And guys, some of you take it to the next level. You're like looking up the prognosis. You're trying to look up treatment plans for something you haven't been diagnosed with. So I'm over here looking up, how long does somebody live on average that's this age that has, lymphoma, right? And then I'm looking up what's the best treatment plans, natural or chemo or alternative, holistic chemo. I'm looking up all these things for a cancer that I haven't even been diagnosed with. So the common thing that drug out my health anxiety was I would have symptoms, get scared, go to Google, deal with that, and be fearful of having that disease for a long period of time, because I embedded something deep into my subconscious during the first couple Google sessions. And then it would kind of drag out. I think I'm protecting myself, trying to look for some reassurance that even if I find it, I'm gonna not believe it. So it's just not healthy, it's not helpful. And that was the common theme with each of my disease scares. It was just my symptoms changing, and then I would Google instead of go and get reassurance from a doctor, and it would set the stage for months, or a year and a half was the lymphoma thing, 2.5 years was the heart anxiety thing, and then it was a common theme. I never learned, basically, is what I'm saying. So don't be like me. Don't make the same mistake as me. And when your symptoms change, jump on Google, okay? Especially if you still deal with anxiety. You're probably not ready to handle that, okay? Go to the doctor, get checked out if it's bothering you, if it's painful, and get some reassurance from them. Stop trying to play doctor, okay? If that makes sense. And if you have anxiety, especially if you have health anxiety, we're trying to go from external reassurance to internal reassurance, right? So you go get some good external, but the problem is we stay there. So either you're Googling, and then maybe you take it up to the next step and you do the better thing and you go to the doctor, and you keep relying on those two things, right? Which the doctor is better than Dr. Google, right? It's still a little bit better reassurance. But what you need is internal reassurance, right? And when you Google your symptoms, you're not relying on you, right? You're relying on something else, another source, something external. You're relying on Google to tell you if you're gonna die or if you're healthy. And even if it tells you that you're healthy, you're gonna believe that it says you're gonna die, right? We have to be able to tell ourselves, after we've gotten doctor's reassurance, that we're healthy and that anxiety is what's causing this, and we have to start living like that afterwards, right? A lot of you guys with the Googling thing, you're going 1 step forward, 2 steps back. 1 step forward, I accept anxiety, but then at 2 o'clock, you're jumping on Google because you felt something, right? Does that sound like somebody that's on the way to recovery, or somebody that's living like they're recovered? Because you have to live like you're recovered before you actually recover. You recover consciously before you recover subconsciously. So stop sending mixed signals, and Google is a huge mixed signal. You wake up in the morning, you say, I accept anxiety for what I'm feeling. I do, I really do. And then at 2 p.m., you're looking up chest pain. Your subconscious is confused. It's like, wait a second, I thought you said we were healthy. I thought you said we were fine. I thought you said things are good and that I can relax. Do you think we have heart disease? Oh my God, here's some more chest pain. Let's get to the doctor. You reinforce the symptoms. You're showing negativity and fear. When you Google, you're showing negativity and fear, which fuels that anxiety. So go to an actual doctor versus going to Dr. Google. All right. And I'm going to tell you this, and I tell everybody that I coach, right? Once I stopped Googling my symptoms, 25-30% of my anxiety went away because that's how much I was doing it, and it intensified my symptoms, right? And then recovery became possible. Wouldn't you like that today? Wouldn't you like that? And I have people that tell me like, I just can't. Well, I'm going to tell you that you're not going to recover. You can. Stop saying that you can't. You can not type something in a search bar. Stop saying that you can't. You choose not to. That's what it is. All right? Maybe that's a little tough. Maybe that's some tough love, but I needed it. I needed that at the time. It didn't do me any favors. It didn't help me. The goal of this channel is for me to help you and to be real with you. I'm not going to BS you, all right? So you got to get away from that. You got to get away. You're sending mixed signals. Now, once you rewire fully and you're where I'm at, like for instance, if I were to feel a persistent pain in the left side of my stomach, and if I were to jump on Google, I've learned, and I know better than to assume those top few results that are going to say some type of cancer in my stomach, right? Because that's what's going to be there. I know that. I've learned. I've rewired. I don't think I'm the small statistic, and I don't catastrophize. So are you ever going to be able to jump on Google again and look at things that are actual real that are happening with you? Sure, because you're going to be able to handle it better if you see something bad at the top. You're going to know from what you've learned in your past experience with anxiety and Dr. Google that just because it says it up there at the top doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth, right? So maybe I am able to Google if I need to, which I don't even really think I've done that pretty much at all since then. If anything, I've just gone to the doctor. There might have been a couple things, maybe skin irritation or something for my kids. But if I were to, I'm not gonna assume that that's what's going on, right? I'm gonna go to a doctor if it keeps bothering me. And that's the goal for you guys. You've gotta get away from it, okay? Trust me, it gets better if you get away from Googling your symptoms. You have to be able to tell yourself that you're okay, right? After a doctor has done it, now it's your turn to tell yourself. And I'll make other videos on other things, but other things that I would throw into this category is checking your pulse all day, checking your heart, your heart rate, your blood pressure, your oxygen levels, maybe your blood sugar, constantly body scanning. There's like a lot of different habits that really hold you back from recovery. Googling is just one of those things. I know you think you're trying to protect yourself, or you think that you're protecting yourself, and you're not doing anything but holding yourself back and digging yourself in a deeper hole. Okay, so get away from the Googling. Just make the choice today that I'm going to rely on a doctor if anything, and that I'm going to rely on myself to tell myself that I'm okay and I'm healthy. So we got to go from external to internal. So remember that, external to internal, all right? But if you want some more help with anxiety, my description box is loaded with opportunities, with resources. There's links for online therapy. You can do that on your phone. You can do it on your laptop. You can do it on a tablet. You don't have to go out and make an appointment and wait a certain amount of time and get out and about. I know we're getting past the COVID stuff, but a lot of people like to do things online. Some of you like in-person therapy. That's great, but you can do it online, and I think it's a little bit more affordable online as well than in person. So go check that out. I'll put the link down there. I have coaching that I offer, so I think it's also great to do therapy with coaching, so you get somebody with experience. So my coaching info is down there. You just email me and I send you my info, and then we go from there if you want to talk on the phone. I have an awesome anxiety course, very affordable as well, Elite Anxiety Bootcamp. It's my step-by-step blueprint on how I overcame anxiety. It lays it all out and makes it easy for you as far as to follow, right? Because you see the whole plan, you got it right there in front of you. You can go through that course at a slower pace and grab some great knowledge and strategy, all right? So check that course out. I'll put a link for that. There are some anxiety journals down there. There are other social media that I offer. So my TikTok, my Twitter, my Instagram, my Snapchat. There's some free Facebook groups down there as well for you to join. There's just a lot down there, okay? So if you never checked out the description, if you're wanting extra help, that's available, okay? There's great value in these videos. Don't get me wrong, great value. You can get a lot out of them. But if you want more personal attention, if you want more detailed help and things like that, there are some opportunities down below with that. Again, I'm sorry for not uploading as much as I used to. I'm still getting settled here. I know I've said that the past few videos. Some of you are like over that, but I don't know where I'm gonna set up. The lighting's kind of weird right now because the sun's going down, but I don't know what's going on. So I don't know if you guys like this or if you don't or whatever. So I guess let me know. I don't know. There's gonna be some more content coming, and there's some of it's gonna be slightly different than the usual. But I don't want to talk about that right now. I'm gonna explain all that. Don't worry, it's nothing bad or anything like that. It's all gonna have to do with mental health. It's just gonna be the way that I do my videos and stuff like that. There's gonna be some changes, but I think you guys will like that. But please subscribe if you're new, and if you have subscribed, please hit that notification bell. I want you to get updated whenever I put these videos out, all right? So that's a great way to get updated. So I hope you got value from this. Hit like if you haven't. But yeah, I love you all, guys, and until next time, keep fighting.